The question I'm answering in today's video: how do I help my child develop interest in studies? This is especially when children have varied interests, they do many things, but when it comes to sitting down for academic work, children don't seem to have any interest. So this video is going to have several parts. First, let's understand how children learn. Secondly, what happens in academic work that causes this boredom or this reluctance or avoidance. Third, what can we do as parents? And fourth, what should we avoid as parents? In addition to this, in the description, I've added a couple of links on how to use Sming to enhance learning, how to enhance language and learning in mathematics. I hope this video is useful for you. How do children learn? The natural process of learning in children is very self-driven, self-regulated and self-corrected, which means they use their innate curiosity and ability to explore to be able to go around their environment and find ways to acquire new information, new knowledge and apply it. Now, what is most important here is that they use play, which is considered the oxygen for the nervous system, to be able to decide on what goals are required, or they decide on what skill has to be acquired, and this is in line with the challenge that they have in life or in learning. So if I have to acquire a particular skill, my nervous system designs play as a way to acquire that skill or to be able to solve that problem. In this, open-ended goals are set, and what that means is the child enjoys the process, is fully immersed in what they're doing, and they discover many things as they go along this process. This is the reason why there is so much interest in self-driven work, and the most important aspect of this is that there is constant application, problem solving, internalization of learning and mastery of skills. So what really happens when children learn naturally is they are able to become aware of what is necessary and steer themselves towards that. In school work or in academic work, what happens is a curriculum is already defined, a textbook probably is already in place. As a result, many times children need to adhere to what is being taught to them, even if it is unfamiliar to them. I can give you an example. When I was probably 6 or 7 years old, I was being taught living and non-living things and about plants. Now, none of this made a lot of sense to me, and I was failing miserably with the dictation of the words like climber and creeper. One particular morning, just as I was leaving for school, my mom called me and she took me to the garden, small garden that we had, and she showed me the climber, the creeper, the herb, the shrub and so on. And in the evening, repeated the same thing and asked me to also share with her what I understood of the plants. The moment this happened, my brain made few connections and I was able to learn the questions or the spellings that were expected by my teacher. This is just one example. Many times what we expose children to in terms of school curriculum is extremely alien and unfamiliar to them, and it's very difficult for them to apply themselves there or to remain naturally curious and interested. The second problem with school work is that there is always a focus on performance, not so much on the process. As a result, there are very specified goals that the child is being pushed towards, and sometimes that can cause a lack of interest. The third problem is there's always reward and punishment. Even if we consciously try, there is some form of grading, some form of ranking a performance. The moment there is so much focus on the performance, the child's joy in the process is being robbed. This is also one of the reasons why children lose interest in study. The worst problem, of course, is competition and comparison. Both comparison and competition push the brain towards the cortisol or the stress response, and once the stress response kicks in, the joy of learning is taken away from the process. Schoolwork very often is repetitive and leads to the kind of boredom that cannot push the brain towards creative solutions. This mundaneness of schoolwork is one of the reasons why children have lack of interest in studies. You may need to pardon the crows and the squirrels who seem to join up in a chorus every time I sit down to record. But having said that, another reason why children have a problem with schoolwork or developing interest in schoolwork is because they are expected to have a set of specific skills upon which further skills are built. built. For example, I should be able to do this kind of reading, I need to know this kind of spelling, I have to be able to write this much. Only when I have these skills can the further skills be built, and this is another reason for lack of interest. One of the mistakes we make as parents is we think that children are like tissue paper that can be just dumped into a liquid and it will just absorb what is there. Learning is not absorption of information. Learning is actually creating connections or synapses between different cells in the brain, neurons in the brain, and different parts or lobes in the brain, areas in the brain. Now, I need to, for example, connect what I'm seeing with what I can hear or the sound that is attributed to it, towards it, and then I have to be able to convert it into a motor component or a muscular component to be able to write. So when there are so many areas involved and so many skills that are involved, learning is not equivalent to just absorbing information. In many of my workshops, I teach the 5 levels of learning for children, but I'll just briefly go over them. First is always at the level of routines and the brain stem. Now, unless children have regular routines, it's difficult for them to acquire learning. The second aspect is sensory. You need to have multisensory experience to be able to perceive learning and to be able to internalize learning. The third is at the level of movement. Children need to be able to use their large muscle groups in order to regulate information in the brain, to be able to assimilate information. The fourth is emotional awareness and emotional regulation. When children are able to emotionally be aware of what they're going through and be able to effectively regulate their emotions, learning becomes much easier. The fifth level of learning is at the level of the cortex, where the 3 R's, the reading, writing, arithmetic, can be taken care of. But many schools and parents focus so much on only the 5th level of learning without paying attention to the 5 levels. This is another reason why children really struggle with learning. Helping children develop an interest towards academic work starts with rest and relaxation. Children need to have good rest, and this involves nighttime sleep. Rest also means lack of gadgets, which is sensory rest, where they're able to rest their eyes and their ears and all the excitement that is pushed in through the gadgets or the screens. Relaxation is the ability to access boredom, to have downtime, and to be able to do something without competition, without any kind of pressure. Rest and relaxation create the optimal conditions in the brain within which learning can be built. The second aspect of what we can do as parents is to ensure that there is enough play and movement. You may have heard me say many times, before I hold something in my head, I must have held it in my hands. This is the reason why play and movement are extremely important. Play and movement must have outdoor and indoor components and screen-free components. And in this, there must be unstructured and structured play. All of these contribute towards overall interest in learning, which will lead to acquisition of skills. The third area that I can make a difference in is support and encouragement. When I say support, it doesn't mean pushing my child to quit. When we say something like, I understand you're not able to do it, it's okay if you don't do it, it reaches many children as, I think you're not capable. I don't think you have the talent or the skill necessary for this. And it actually works in the negative, and it pushes them towards low self-worth. It's very important for us to understand that when we give children the kind of support they need, we're actually letting them know that we are willing to understand the problem through their eyes, to understand what is challenging, and to co-regulate or to find solutions together. So we are not actually pushing them to quit, but we are actually supporting them to find the solution along with us. Encouragement, on the other hand, is not appreciation. I know there's a lot of literature that says appreciating children is very important. Appreciation, like good job, great job, things like that, actually stops children from trying more or wanting more or reaching more. Instead, what encouragement can mean is giving them the kind of feedback that is required. I can give you an example. When I was a very young child, when I was about 10, my 5th standard teacher realized that I was a natural sports person. As a result, every free period that she would have, she would call me and play table tennis with me. Every time she made time for me, I started realizing that there was something in me that she found very different, and she was spending that much of effort to give me the kind of opportunities to grow. This feedback naturally helped me develop my skills and play at the national level. When I was in 11th standard, my English teacher gave me very good feedback about my writing, and this pushed me to be the author that I am. This kind of feedback is part of the encouragement that we can give a child, because naturally as human beings we do not know sometimes what is beneficial for us, what we are good at, or what has scope for improvement, and therefore encouragement very often means supporting the child. What is it that we shouldn't do? The first, competition and comparison. Competition and comparison move the brain towards the cortisol or the stress response and removes the joy of learning, or robs the child of the joy of learning. The second aspect of what we need to definitely avoid is punishment. Punishment makes children suffer for something that they are unable to master or something that they are unable to acquire. Punishment makes children feel that they are less worthy, and it leads to low self-worth and low self-esteem, which naturally reduce performance over a period of time and definitely lead to poor interest or lack of interest and motivation in a particular area. One more thing that we need to avoid: meaningless repetition. Repetition does not enhance learning. Meaningless repetition only increases load on the brain and it doesn't serve any purpose. When children are unable to acquire a skill or master a skill in the way that we are teaching them, it's essential for us to find different ways to approach the same problem. It's important for us to understand that by changing the methods or reaching the child differently, the brain is able to access learning and naturally develop interest towards learning. Once we avoid competition and comparison, criticism and punishment, and meaningless repetition, it's easier for us to create the optimal conditions within which children can learn. Make sure that the environment has a lot of exploration, a lot of opportunities for developing curiosity, opportunities for application, opportunities to use multisensory approaches, and movement. I hope this video was useful for you. Like I mentioned earlier, please have a look at the links in the description, which may also help you to change the way you approach learning. One Question is an initiative for parents to access good quality information that is reliable and scientifically tested, to be able to enhance the quality of your relationship with your child. This is the first video in this series. In the description, I have also added a link to the form. You could use the link to leave a question for me. If it is relevant and pertinent, I will answer it in subsequent videos, and they will be posted on Facebook, on YouTube and LinkedIn.